People here have been waiting in line for hours. Some even say they got here before dawn, all to see the president. Last week, a few House Republicans say that they got these t-shirts that read #NotMyNewMexico to show their feelings towards this legislative session. And then on the back of the t-shirts, it calls out a few bills that they are strongly against. Lizzie, we wanted to step outside the Roundhouse to show you some of those security measures that are going on. Now, as you can see behind me, that there is a heavy local law enforcement presence. This is part of the Rio Grande Valley State Park. You can find broken bottles and pieces of glass like this one that covers 20 acres. It's a perfect spot for treasure hunters. So here's how it works. People visiting the sculpture can grab a pencil and paper on site, write down the message they want to put inside the capsule, and they can put their message in one of the slots. And when we type it into VaxView, some get this pop-up that says they're unable to find a record matching the search criteria. But for others, they're able to look up their immunization history as well as their COVID vaccinations. And Jessica, this year's theme is the 70s, so Old Man Gloom is dressed up like John Travolta's iconic outfit. We are less than a week away before state lawmakers begin the legislative session. The Roundhouse is already gearing up for large protests, and some lawmakers have even received threats. The daunting and intense scene from last week's Capitol riots shocked the nation. Now, state leaders are worried what happened in D.C. could happen here.
We've seen a call to arms by groups wanting to protest and invade state capitals all through the country.
The New Mexico Speaker of the House, Brian Egolf, is concerned about safety for the state's upcoming legislative session.
There have been New Mexicans on social media and on these alt-right websites that have made specific threats against New Mexico targets.
Some concerning comments were even captured in a recording from the pro-Trump rally at the Roundhouse last week.
It's going to be us going to the Capitol, all the capitals, and ripping them out of the capitals.
So now, officials are beefing up security measures in Santa Fe. This is something you don't see often outside of the Roundhouse. Legislative services tell me they started putting up this fencing today as a safety measure for any upcoming protests. We're told the fencing is just a start to address security concerns.
It would be a surprise to me if anything develops.
The state's Republican Party chair tells me he hasn't heard of any planned protests at the Roundhouse, but says if people decide to protest, there is no room for violence.
Our freedoms and our Constitution for the U.S. allows us the right to petition our government to gather in gatherings. It does not allow us to destroy other people's property, does not allow us to endanger people's lives.
So lawful, peaceful protest is welcome. And if there are some bad elements that want to try to do things like we saw in Washington, we'll be ready to respond and keep everyone safe.
The odds were very much against him.
Battling freezing temperatures, no food, no shelter, and no sign of a way out.
For somebody to even walk through it with the amount of downed trees, it's almost impossible.
It was a matter of life and death for 65-year-old Ronnie Duran after he got lost in the woods. He was last seen hunting near the La Paloma Trail in the Jemez Mountains on Tuesday. He was gone for 36 hours. But a chance encounter saved his life when Duran came face-to-face with the Cuba High School cross-country team. We're told the hunter traveled for several miles away from where he was last known to be and made his way here to Vallecitos. And it's here where the cross-country team ran into him.
I was already almost finished running and I was making the turn. I seen him right there and I was wondering who it was because no one's up there.
He just said if we could help him and if he was lost.
After a while, seeing how he was walking and his voice and he could barely even walk, at that time I knew something was wrong with him.
The team trusted their guts.
I was like, yeah, we can help you.
And led him back to safety.
And it turned out that they were walking back together solidly as a team with the lost hunter. We were just so proud that the kids right away took this person under their wing.
Just happy that we found him.
Locals credit the team's quick thinking and quick feet for saving Duran's life. Rachel Knapp, KRQE News 13.
She used to show up at my work. She was stalking me for a while.
He says they briefly dated and he was trying to end it kindly. Then he says it led to violence. punches to the stomach and the ribs.
She's been in and out of jail like 8 times.
And finally, the death threats. So that is why we are hiding his identity.
That's when she said, "You can't tell me what to do. I'll kill you. You ain't all this and that."
He says she went to extremes to try and see him.
She started crawling through my doggy door and stuff like that, like real late at night.
He went to get a restraining order. While filling out the paperwork on July 17th, one question stood out. Does the abuser have a firearm? That question was added 16 days earlier. It was part of a new gun control legislation in New Mexico that went into effect in July. It states, if a person is charged with domestic violence or has a restraining order against them, and the domestic violence victim can prove to a judge their life is in danger, a judge can tell the suspect to temporarily give up their guns. The bill was sponsored by Democratic State Senator Joseph Cervantes.
So the goal here is to assure that judges make the right inquiries when you have a case of domestic violence, make the right inquiries of the individuals involved, and make sure we take guns out of the mix.
We wanted to know how many times a victim asked a judge to take away someone's guns. 91 people have filed motions under this new law that took effect July 1st. Judges found that in every case there was a reasonable threat, yet only 14 people had to give up their guns. Why? To get the answer, we go back to the man trying to get away from an ex-girlfriend.
What kind of gun did she have?
A handgun, like a semi-automatic handgun.
But in court, the woman told the judge she didn't own or have a gun.
You see, there seems to be a loophole in this new law. The judge can only ask someone if they have a gun, but the law does not give the judge the authority to search if any person has a gun or has access to weapons. So, this new law is based upon an honor code. So someone accused of stalking, injuring, or abusing someone is expected to be honest with the judge.
I was like, well, that's bull, because I saw it in her car.
He says she lied to the judge. Now he was even more worried about retaliation.
Just the fact that she's threatening to kill me and she has a gun, I thought would be enough, but it wasn't. Why would they not search her house for a gun?
We took what we found back to Senator Cervantes, and he says he would consider making amendments to this new law to make sure there could be some sort of truth-finding measures after a suspect claims they don't have a gun. The senator also added, if people are lying about this, they could face perjury charges, as well as federal gun possession charges.
The point of the law is to make sure that it's not a matter of honor code. The law has consequences for individuals who fail to comply with the law, and so it's up to the courts to make the inquiry and to be persuaded. And we need to make sure the courts have the resources to do this. This takes time, it takes money, it takes personnel.
Only 2 people in Bernalillo County have tried to get guns out of the abuser's hands using this new law, despite having the highest number of domestic violence cases in the state. We reached out numerous times to Bernalillo County District Attorney Raul Torres' office to see if the loophole is why they are not using the new law, but they repeatedly declined requests for an interview. The victim we spoke with says he's not sure he would have asked the judge for his ex to give up her gun if he knew she could just lie and get away with it.
She doesn't need to have it. I'm scared. She's threatening to kill me. I was really surprised that nobody went and was like, oh, maybe we should check her house. I thought that was just like a given. I thought they were just going to do that.
Rachel Knapp, KRQE News 13.